don't be careless with your spending, because you may be making a lot at this moment, but there are times, just like you said, the booms and the busts that may come apart.
Finance for the everyday millennial. Hard charging solutions. We provide an accelerant in the journey towards financial independence. Welcome to Cassian with Cassian, the financial forum for young professionals. Today, we're going to be talking about what it's like to be a pilot with my friend, Jeffrey Finney. If you've ever wondered what it's like in the life of a pilot and what it's like on the financial side specifically, you're about to find out. After graduating from Georgia Southern University with his bachelor's in cellular molecular biology and his master's in public health, he served as an educator for the Georgia Department of Public Health. He is currently making the transition to becoming a commercial pilot for a regional airline. He currently serves as an operations agent for Southwest Airlines and as a private flight instructor as he works toward completing that 1,500 hours of required flight time before he can claim the title of first officer for a regional airline. As a quick disclaimer here, the thoughts and comments and opinions that Mr. Finney is about to express do not reflect the opinions of Southwest and are the sole responsibility of Mr. Finney. All right, I'd like to get started with the first question. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for asking. All right. So what does your day-to-day look like? So, what does it mean to be pilot Jeffrey Finney?
So my day to day, what it looks like, when I first wake up in the morning, just getting in that habit, I always check the weather. Because if people don't know, being a pilot is you're practically a weatherman, a mechanic, and a pilot all at once. So when I first get up, the first thing I always check is the weather, just to see how the weather is looking today, what type of fronts we have moving in that direction, the high and low pressure systems we have, and what the winds are looking like. So that's pretty much how my day to day starts in the beginning. Once I move from there, I'll decide whether I'm going to. I'll first take my son to school, and then after that, I'll either, if I'm working, I'll go to work. If not, then I'll either instruct or I'll go fly for the remainder of the day.
That sounds like a beautiful day. That sounds like a beautiful day. Honestly, I have been working on my private pilot's license, since undergrad, like 2012-ish.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. Obviously, there have been many, many years when I wasn't even able to get into a plane because of either a deployment or work out in the way or whatever it was. But I absolutely love flying. Super jealous of this profession. But yeah, that's cool. If you're not working, you just start flying for yourself. That is awesome to get your hours up. That's cool. All right. What do you most and least look forward to in your day-to-day?
What I most and least look forward to in the day to day is spending money.
Okay.
At this point in my life right now, any pilot will tell you that started from where I'm at right now, this is the brokest time that uh, of the actual career progression of this phase. When you're trying to get your 1,500 hours, you have a lot coming out. You just finished flight school, a lot came out then, and now you're still having a lot come out even more. So that's what I at least like hate about every day is knowing the amount of money coming out every day.
Yeah, man. I can't even imagine.
Because flying is not cheap. Yeah.
What's the biggest expense when it comes to flying? Is it the renting of the aircraft or?
Uh, it all depends. So recently I just purchased a plane. So that part is actually behind me. So I have to pay to rent a plane because right now, because prices have gone up, the actual cost to probably rent a plane per with the fuel per hour is probably at $170 an hour.
Dang, okay.
Yeah, so right now I've actually purchased a plane, so that part is behind me. So now I pay for fuel on a daily, which averages between 50 to 120, depends on where I'm going.
Okay. Did you purchase this plane solo? Is it a group venture? How does that part work out? And did you do the math behind your break-even point? If you were to continue to rent, you might as well have purchased a plane once you got to X number of hours.
Yeah, so this was a partnership venture with two of my other colleagues that I went to flight school with. We went 3 ways in on the plane. We split it everything down the middle. We tried to find the most cost efficient plane that will give us the right amount of hours, least with using the least amount of money. Well, also we will still be able to do instrument approaches with, and we're also looking for a type of aircraft that had the right avionics that we were looking for in it. So with that being said, actually only two of us actually paid for the plane, and the other person money was used for in the event if we had any emergency or any large expenses come out, we have a safety net to bounce back on.
Gotcha.
And so with that being said, it was a 3-way partnership adventure. And after calculating it out, we're only spending now on our fuel once we're done getting our 1,500 hours, which we made an agreement that all three of us have to reach our 1,500 hours before we can actually sell the plane back. Once we sell the plane again, we'll actually get our money back from that we put into the plane, because unlike cars, airplanes appreciate instead of depreciating.
Nice. I did not know that planes actually appreciate in value. That is actually really good to know. Okay, so that basically means instead of renting, buying definitely is going to be your biggest bang for buck, with the variable cost being fuel. And then splitting that 3 ways definitely makes sense. Everybody's able to get their 1,500 hours in. And then at the conclusion of your flight school, you'll be able to sell that thing possibly for a profit. That's awesome.
And we're splitting the fuel for
Splitting the fuel expense.
each other when we fly. So that's also cutting the price of that too as well on fuel per day.
Okay. That makes sense. That is very cool. To all those aspiring pilots out there, all right, listen up. This is a very smart way to go about getting through flight school. 1,500 hours. That is a lot of time. I think the average number of hours worked per year is about 2,000 hours if you work full time. So it's almost like working full time just in school, getting your hours in the air. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I finished flight school with about 230. So that gives you a give or take of how much school you go through, and you really don't get that much hours. So getting the 1,500 is, substantial after that. So
okay. How regimented is that? Because if you're only getting 230 in the official school, and then you have to go out and get the remainder hours, is there another program, or is that you just like you're doing now, figuring out how to buy a plane to keep costs low to get the hours up?
Also instructing as well. The most traveled route is instructing.
Gotcha.
And so that's what majority newly graduating pilots do. They instruct till they get to their 1,500, which takes roughly about 2 years. So I'm cut that down in half by flying on my own as well as instructing.
How many hours do you have to have in order to be an instructor?
So you just need to be a commercially rated pilot. So it's just 200 hours.
Okay.
Which are so 200 hours, which are CFI.
What's CFI?
Commercial flight instructor.
Okay, that's a license. Okay, very awesome. Thank you for that. I'm gonna kind of go through some statistics that I pulled from online, and I want to kind of get your take on some of these things and figure out what your thought process was as you made the decision to make the transition from public health to being a pilot. So according to Indeed.com, the average salary for an airline pilot is somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000 starting. Obviously, it gets much higher than that. And the average student loan debt for people graduating from flight school is between $20,000 and $90,000. I'm assuming that is based on private pilot's license all the way up to a commercial pilot's license. Based on average salaries and average student loan debt, what type of financial research did you do before you decided to make the transition from public health to becoming a commercial pilot?
So while I was in public health, I was living at home. So at that moment, I was able to save a large percentage of what I was bringing home.
Mm-hmm.
So it made the decision a lot easier when I decided to make the transition to become a pilot. I knew that this would be a lot of debt that I was in the front end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just found so I did take out a loan during this, and I tried to find a loan with the lowest interest rate to be able to fund this, because it was just like you say, to get all the way from 0 hours to commercially rated is a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
With the 20,000 being more just getting your private license, and the 90 higher would be more getting your commercial and add-ons after that. So 90 would be more just your commercial, but if you want to add more to that, would be still substantial more money from there. So yeah,
it ain't cheap to be a commercial pilot.
To be a commercial pilot. I will say that just looking at different rates where the market was going at that time, we had just hit during COVID. A lot of interest rates were lowering during that time process, so it was easier to snag one. Then that would make the decision a whole lot easier to make the transition.
Okay. Yeah, when I saw $90,000, I was like, that's not medical school debt, but that's like law school debt. Honestly, that's serious. But the amount of upward mobility that you guys have, starting at $70,000 to $80,000, if you were to start probably next year, it'll probably be six figures. Just with inflation.
With a lot of contracts right now for the airlines being renegotiated right now, Mesa Airlines just really made a whole game changer for people who are becoming first officers, which is a regional airline carrier. They just came out about a month ago and increased their pay rates for their first officers to $100 an hour. So that would be a game changer for the industry completely. That now the other regional carriers are going to have to try to compete with that. So
yeah, that's significant. Do you know what it was before?
So they went from the lowest, which was I think it was 30. They went from 30 to $100 an hour, I think.
Holy cow.
They went from the lowest paid regional carrier to the highest paid regional carrier.
Holy cow. Yeah. It's looking pretty lucrative. I like it. I like it.
And so with that said, your first officer is more like in the 70, 80 range as of right now, but it is increasing. But it tremendously will go up once you become a mainline carrier. So
that makes sense. Love to see it. In this post-COVID economy, you're seeing that a lot in a bunch of different industries. People are leaving one profession, going to another profession for significant pay raises. But what we're finding more often than not is that people stay in the same profession and then just change employers and see dramatic increases in pay. So yeah, I think for skilled labor, this is the time to really take advantage of interviewing and marketing yourself in a way that will get you the biggest bang for your buck, quite frankly. So, all right, with that, I'm going to move to the next question. Being away from home so often, I have to believe that it can impact your ability to plan for your personal finances. I'm sure you've got a really good handle on what your personal finances are, what the outlook will look like. when you do secure that first job for a regional airline. But with you being fairly close, have you started the thought process around who's going to be responsible for your finances when you're in the air so often, away from home so often?
Oh, so I've actually considered that after I've been listening to uh, your podcast and watching your YouTube. I've really, considered, speaking to you in the future about, finances, because I will be looking for a CFP, for to handle my finances, because being said, airline pilots do make a lot of money, and I will need somebody to manage that, so that I can make proper decisions, so that in the event if I do not qualify for a medical one day, or that I decide to retire, that I am set up for, a successful future after that.
I swear, folks, we did not pay him to say that. He's not prompted to say that. I did not text him. Those words are completely his words, I swear. But honestly, I thank you. I appreciate it. I love to see the fact that our YouTube channel and our podcast channels are reaching the people that needs to be reaching, professional millennials looking to achieve financial independence. So yeah, thank you. To all those folks out there in this profession, really the point of that question is to make sure that you're thinking about who is going to be planning your personal finances, because you're constantly on the road. You're always thinking about a bunch of other things. Somebody has to be in control in planning your personal finances. So I think this is one of those fields right up there with medical professionals and attorneys that's definitely going to require a lot more help on the personal finance side. So yeah, thank you for realizing that, explaining from your perspective the importance.
Yeah, I'll be in a different city every day. I will not have time to look at my finances or see what's coming out, or to be able to sit down, go to the bank or talk to somebody about the things that are happening and are coming out of my account. So I will need somebody to take those things for me.
Good. I'll tell you this, not so shameless plug for Club RINO Plus, that the first thing that people need to really take into consideration is what their current financial literacy and IQ is, and where it needs to be to start taking advantage of all the different performing assets that are available to you. Once you start to get that income, that is not the time to start thinking about where to deploy that money. You really need to be thinking about that now, right? So we have Club RINO Plus, and the whole purpose of it is to assist people in increasing their financial literacy and IQ. We have a bunch of different courses. Entrepreneurial personal finance course is what I would recommend to someone in your specific situation. And then eventually, once you land that first job and the income starts rolling in, you'll want to identify and start to execute on the asset class that most makes sense for your risk tolerance and your ability to participate in your own financial plan. So being a real estate investor, it's really active. And because you won't have time, maybe that's not the asset class for you. Maybe investing in securities is probably going to be a better fit based on your risk tolerance and your ability to engage in investing. So yeah, open a Club RINO Plus account, start increasing your financial literacy and IQ today to make sure that you're prepared to start deploying the capital once it does start to come in.
Do you keep dreaming about when you'll be able to pursue your passions? It can be challenging to turn that dream into reality while providing quality care to your patients, addressing your student loans, and living a comfortable life. I'm Cassian Nunez, the CEO of RINO Invest, and I'm here to share a better way, the RINO way, which will make you financially independent sooner so that you can start to do more of what you are actually passionate about. Becoming a RINO will increase your financial IQ by making you familiar with the concept of risk and return, the different asset classes available for investment, and how you can take advantage of those options immediately. You'll have access to curated courses, online calculators, wealth guides, checklists, and your own net worth tracker. All this and more with your RINO account. So I invite you to take the first step towards realizing your goals by opening an account today. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to working with you. Next question. You kind of touched on it a little bit when you said you might possibly lose your medical. Your industry is really different from most others for several reasons. Chief among them is the fact that booms and busts in the overall economy have a very direct impact on the airline industry. So events like 2008, where the stock market completely crashed, and unexpected events like 9/11 and COVID-19 have huge impacts to the airline industry. You guys are more or less out of work, right? You're grounded. And then people can't fly in the case of COVID-19 or in the case of a terrorist attack like 9/11. With that being said, talk to me about your thought process on different insurances, on emergency funds, on how you plan to kind of navigate some of the downswings in the economy.
So I plan on investing and also making sure that I have a safety net by saving for those downswings in the term. They're not projected to last for a long period of time because there's only so many hours that, and timelines that they can keep you out of work before the airline can basically receive a bailout by the government, like how they did during COVID-19, where they received a bailout by the government so that pilots could actually start getting paid. Because in the event that it did turn around, like how it did in 2020, with everybody starting to fly again, the airlines were not capable to rebound, and a lot of people lost their medicals due to COVID and underlying health conditions. So now we're looking at a situation where people are looking for more pilots to come into the industry, now higher than ever because of that situation. So this is the biggest time that, it is for you to get in to become a pilot at this time. So I would say that just make sure that you plan ahead. There's always going to be a rainy day. So just make sure you have your rainy day funds whenever you need to. So, and live within your means. So even though that you may be making $14,000 or $48,000 a month, being a pilot, don't be careless with your spending, because you may be making a lot at this moment, but there are times, just like you said, the booms and the busts that may come apart. So
when you talk about medical, you guys have to do flight physicals annually if you're under the age of 40. And then once you hit the age of 40, it's twice a year. And so depending on the results of these exams, you could be temporarily or permanently banned from flying, which obviously is going to have an impact on your income. And so, yeah, it's very critical that folks in your industry are purchasing different insurances to account for those types of things, and saving and investing for times like external factors, COVID-19, 9/11 events, stuff like that. Going to insurances specifically, in flight school or, conversing with some of your other pilot colleagues, do you guys ever talk about the different types of insurances that you are going to need to have?
I haven't talked to anyone about the different type of insurances that we may need. I need to look further into that. The only thing that I do know that I just hear from other colleagues talking about medicals and stuff and passing their medicals, you just want to make sure that you live a healthy lifestyle and you do as best you can to stay as healthy as possible, because it is going to come a time when we do get older and a lot of health issues do come apart. So it's just our step and our due diligence to make sure that we're doing our part to stay healthy as much as possible. You do need a first class medical to do fly for a commercial airline, but you also can get a second class medical, a third class medical to fly for other smaller gigs that will still give you money, or you could instruct, which you only need a third class medical. So it will not be this a substantial amount of money you'll make as a commercial airline, but you can still make money without a first class.
Got you. Thank you for making us all hip to the different classes of medical. That makes sense. I was going to ask, like, where do the folks go who are not able to obtain medical, but there are different stages of medical licensing?
Just like any career, there are different paths and different options that you can do within a career. So there are different things you can do other than just flying commercial.
Got it. Kind of staying on the theme of insurance a little bit. We talk a lot about life insurance and how I always advocate for term over whole life insurance. I think Dave Ramsey, I don't agree with him often, but on this, I definitely agree in that term or whole life insurance is the payday loan or lender of the middle class. I do not like whole life insurance. I think it's oversold. It's sold to the wrong demographic of people. It's sold as an investment, and insurance is not meant to be an investment, right? There's going to come a time in anyone's life, if they have invested properly, if they have executed on the financial plan that they have set out to execute on effectively, they will no longer need insurance. You will essentially have created a high enough net worth to where insurance is no longer necessary, which is why we always recommend term over whole life insurance or permanent life insurance. We talk a lot about life insurance on the YouTube channel, so please go check that out. We have a bunch of different episodes on that. We also talk about health insurance and the importance of health insurance. People are very familiar with that one. Usually it's employer provided. And if it's not, you could go get your own private insurance. But we very rarely talk about disability insurance. I think people believe that they are indestructible, right? They feel good today, and so they never envision themselves not feeling the way they currently feel. But you definitely, in certain professions, especially like yours, need to be prepared for instances where you are not up to the task of being able to trade your time for money, but you still need the money to pay your bills, right? So that's where disability insurance kicks in. And pilots, all the aspiring pilots, current pilots, definitely need to have some sort of disability insurance. So thank you for that. That concludes the formal Q&A portion. Now we're going to jump right into my favorite segment. So you think you're smarter than a RINO. It's 6 questions. You will have an unlimited amount of time to come up with the answer. Think carefully. I don't think you'll need a lot of time, but don't feel pressured. And then at the end, I'm going to explain the answer so that everyone, including yourself, knows it if you don't get it correct. So yeah, no pressure. It's all right. You're the first pilot to take this thing. So for all pilots out there, represent them well.
What kind of resources can we use?
You can use 0 resources. You can't use anything except for your own memory.
Okay.
That's all you got. We're thinking about incorporating a phone your friend situation, but not for this episode. So it's all on you, man. No pressure. All right. So the first question, what are the subcategories of the real estate asset class?
Subcategories for the real estate asset class.
Yes.
Oh gosh. I have no idea. Literally.
All right. I'll give you a hint. So in all the different types of real estate, you got to think about how people interact with physical buildings.
Commercial will be one, right?
That's one. Yep.
Residential.
That's 2.
Private, no. Commercial, residential, industry. No, that's commercial. How many classes are there?
There are four.
Four. So I got commercial industry. I mean, commercial, residential. I'm stopped after that.
So you said industry, and it's actually industrial.
Oh, industrial.
And then there's retail. So
Retail.
commercial is where people work.
Commercial
Residential.
wouldn't be retail.
I'm sorry?
Commercial wouldn't be retail.
No, because commercial is where people work. Retail is where people shop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like massive banks are commercial real estate where, you know, bankers work, stuff like that. Retail is the mall, the grocery store, etc. Residential, where people live, and then industrial are the factories and warehouses, plants, etc. So those are the four subcategories of the real estate asset class. You got two of the four. That's not bad. I might give you industrial. We'll say you got three of the four because you said industry.
Okay.
All right. Question number 2. How many tax brackets are there in our federal progressive tax system?
There's 3, right?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah. Let's go with 4. Let's increase it by 1. Let's go with 4.
So there are 7.
Gosh.
You got 10%, 12%, 22%, 24%, 32%, 35%, and now the highest tax bracket is 37%. So there are 7 tax brackets in our federal progressive tax system.
Okay.
Question number 3. What does the acronym SMART stand for?
Literally.
Just give it what you got, man. Give it what you got.
I don't remember. I literally just watched this in your video. You actually talk about one of this actually acronym in one of your videos.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't remember right now. I'm blank. My brain is blowing up apart right now.
So you're not even gonna attempt. You're just gonna leave this one blank. When in doubt, choose C at least.
Sell, market, advertise.
You know what? I'm gonna stop you right there, bro. I'm gonna stop you right there. All right. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. So we always talk about people creating smart financial goals. Your goals need to be specific. They need to be measurable. They need to be achievable. They need to be realistic, and they need to be time bound. So obviously that's 0 points. All right. But, you know, A for effort. This man says sell, market, advertise. Oh, shoot. That's funny. All right. Question number 4. Explain in your own words the strategy of dollar cost averaging, or DCA.
Dollar cost averaging.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that means, but what I think it means.
What do you think it means?
I think it means that you should pay a fair share of what the product is. You shouldn't pay more than what it actually costs. So you should try to find the best bang for your buck per dollar for whatever it is, the item that you're trying to buy.
Okay, just to be clear, I said dollar cost averaging.
Dollar cost averaging.
Are you want to keep that answer?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Cassian. I don't know what that means.
All right.
Can you explain it to me?
Sure. Dollar cost averaging, in layman's terms, is contributing the same amount of money at a set interval to a brokerage account to purchase shares of a security, regardless of the share price. So if you are purchasing Apple stock on the first of the month, every single month, the share price is going to fluctuate. 1 month it'll be $50, 1 month it'll be $100, 1 month it'll be $25. You're always going to contribute $500 per month.
So your contribution does not change based on the share price. You're not purchasing 10 shares every month. You're contributing $500 every month. And however many shares you're able to purchase is what you purchase. So that is the strategy of dollar cost averaging. That is what we tell our clients to do, specifically with index funds, low cost index funds and mutual funds, things like this, because it's easy to automate. A large part of personal finance is behavioral. There's not a lot of math in what I do. When I help people with estate planning, when I help them with tax planning, insurance planning, retirement planning, and investment planning, it's really understanding the person more than understanding the math. A lot of software already exists. We use a bunch of software. We have some really good wealth management software that does the math, a majority of the math for us. It's really about, all right, how am I able to automate some of the really important decisions? And the best way to do that is to dollar cost average, include it in your budget. I know I'm buying $1,000 a month in S&P 500 index funds, regardless of what each share costs. So that's what dollar cost averaging is. But I think you were really close with the pay your fair share for an item. I can't even write all of it down. I was like, what is this man talking? All right, number 5. What do we consider to be the 2 schools of thought in personal finance?
Cost and debt, or expenses and debt. Well,
Is that your final answer?
Cost and debt, I guess.
Cost and debt.
Or money
So
and debt.
Money and debt.
Yes.
That's your final answer, money and debt.
Yes.
All right. So the 2 schools of thought are Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki. Dave Ramsey, most people in the South know him. He's actually national and international, but he's all about getting out of debt, just completely eliminate it. There's no such thing as good debt. Pay cash for things. He doesn't want you using credit cards. He doesn't want you doing any type of borrowing. If you don't have the money, then whatever it is does not belong to you. It is not in your future, right? He makes some exceptions, like purchasing a home. I think that's the main exception that he will make. Everything else, though, buy your cars cash, pay cash for your vacations, do not put them on a credit card, cash flow, education, do not take out student loan debt, all of it debt-free. So there's the Dave Ramsey side, right, to really living your life. They're based on biblical principles and the 7 baby steps. And then there's the Robert Kiyosaki side. He is the author of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. So that book is very, very popular. Most people attribute their entering into investing to that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So Robert Kiyosaki is all about living life in abundance. He defines assets and liabilities not in the textbook definition that accountants have come up with, but in his own definition of, if money is put into your pocket, it's considered an asset. If money is being taken out of your pocket, it is a liability. And the biggest example that he gives is your primary residence. Most people consider their primary residence to be an asset. And if there is equity in the property, from a balance sheet perspective, from an accounting perspective, they are not wrong. But from Robert Kiyosaki's perspective, they are wrong. If you have a mortgage, you have to pay that. That's money coming out of your pocket. You always will have to pay taxes and insurance on the property, and then you'll always have to pay for upkeep of the property. So your primary residence is a liability because money is coming out of your pocket. A rental property would be considered an asset, even if it has a mortgage on it, because the rent coming in should be in excess of that debt, and then you should have some profit left over. So a rental property would be considered an asset. A liability is your primary residence. So he, with that type of philosophy, is all about taking out debt to purchase assets, things that make you money. And Dave, he doesn't care. Pay that house down. You'll be debt-free by the time you're like 30 years old. and then you'll just buy your next home with cash. You'll buy everything with cash. So those are the two schools of thought. We have a good video on our two schools of thought on the education page of roundinvest.co. You go to roundinvest.co, click on education, and then you will see it's the very first video, two schools of thought. I hope that explanation made sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. And then the last question, the final question, my favorite question. What does RINO stand for? What is the RINO acronym?
The RINO.
RINO stands for something. We
Okay.
stand for something at RINO Invest.
I'm gonna give a good guess.
Do it, man.
I want to say real investors, something operators. I don't know what the N is.
Is that your final answer?
Real invest numbers operators.
That's your final answer? Real investor numbers operator.
Yes.
Okay. That was really close. It's real education, investments in performing assets, no bad debt, and oversight of those assets. So when we talk about real education, we're not talking about going and getting your bachelor's in business administration or your bachelor's or master's in accounting. That is not the type of education we're talking about. We're talking about the education that we provide, where we're specifically teaching people how to invest in real estate, how to invest in the stock market, how to start a business, how to look at their personal finances like an entrepreneur would. So it's curated for that. More or less, yeah. We have those 4 courses. It's 4 hours of self-paced content. So if you open a Club RINO Plus account, you will immediately gain access to all of that content. And that's what we consider to be real education that you can take and use in your journey toward financial independence. The next, investments in performing assets. So most people consider their primary residence to be an asset, and it is for accounting purposes, but it's not a performing asset. You have all this equity that's locked into the property. It's not performing. It's not producing anything for you on a routine basis. You need to be purchasing performing assets like rental properties, like index or mutual funds, starting a business, which is basically a system which allows you to take yourself out of it, hire someone else to run it, and then you enjoy the profits. Stuff like that, purchasing performing assets. Getting rid of bad debt. There is such a thing as good and bad debt. We believe in it heavily, right? Good debt is debt that you use to purchase performing assets. Bad debt is everything else. So do not get unnecessarily large car loans. Get a car loan, pay it down as quickly as possible. If you use credit cards, do not carry a balance. Pay it off immediately. Do not go on vacation using debt. You could go on vacation using the credit card, but make sure you pay that credit card off before the balance carries over into the next month. Pay it off. Get rid of bad debt. Use good debt to purchase performing assets. And then the next thing is oversight of those assets. If you're purchasing rental properties, you need to have good property management. If you're purchasing securities, you need to make sure that you're routinely monitoring them for tax loss harvesting purposes and things like that. So it's real education, investments in performing assets, no bad debt, oversight of those assets. We thank you for playing, Mr. Finney. Your answers were interesting. I think I thank you for playing and allowing people to really understand that personal finance is something that everybody can get good at, right? You don't have to become a certified financial planner. You do not have to go to school for this. You can invest in yourself by getting some real education. And we hope everyone listening and watching understands that and decides to choose us as their partner of choice. So thanks again, my friend. We appreciate you. And until next time.